Today we are going to talk about personality profiling, and this is going to spill over into your personal life and business. So, I never want to say when you do the personality profiling, this can be used in every aspect of your life, in every relationship in your life. Along those lines, Kevin, you did mention something which is incredibly important. The reason we do profiling with a personality, or the reason that we need to learn about ourselves and the people that we surround ourselves with, is to come together and mesh together as tightly and as deeply as we can. So when we're talking about understanding yourself and others, in my opinion, this has got to be a must for having the best relationships and the most successful, deep, meaningful relationships in your life and business. One aspect that I want to touch on the front end, and we'll interlude, that'll be the entire way through, is basically we have a responsibility, though, within personality profiling to adapt our personality to mesh with the other people. So, for example, if we're just stuck in our personality profile and we don't, try and understand others or be adapting, then this doesn't work. So that is one major aspect of the personality profile. Now, the one that I like, there are a lot of different profiles out there. I tend to like the DISC profile. If I know they talk a lot, specifically in Keller Williams, and actually Anthony Robbins or Tony Robbins does a lot with the DISC profile. So we're going to go over that profile. There are plenty of other great profiles. I just happen to like this one. It's 4 letters, and we're going to go over roughly what those stand for. And then so we will be going into an assignment at the end of this as well. So I like giving assignments. If you go to www.tonyrobbins.com, so tonyrobbins.com, and then /DISC, DISC, /, that will give you an option to do a DISC profile. Now, if you are in front of a computer, you can go to that right now, and there's a lot of information on that page. And Tony Robbins is really, if anybody follows him or has followed him in the past, he is really big into mastering your personality profile and mastering the understanding for others. So I love him in general, but that is where you can get the DISC profile, because at the end of this, we are going to ask everybody, it only takes 15, 20 minutes to do the profile. If you did just log onto your computer and pull up that website, if you want to follow along, I absolutely think that's great, but don't take the profile yet. And we'll give you, at the end of the calls, when you take the profile, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit on the second part tomorrow. So if you're not in front of a computer, you can go back and check this later as well. So let's talk a little bit about what the letters stand for. We're going to do kind of a high level today, and then you can take the profile, and anybody that you surround yourself with, they can take the profile, and then we're going to talk about ways to be adaptive tomorrow, and things to look for that are hints on the personality profile of other people, and then how we can perform or how we can utilize that to the best of our ability. So the first one is D, which Anthony Robbins, they have different labels sometimes, but he has dominance on there, which I think is a good characteristic, although that seems a little aggressive. However, when we're going over this, remember, there is no right or wrong personality profile. It's just who we are, or what we and the way we relate to other people. So there's no good or bad, but the D is dominance, and some general characteristics of that D style, they tend to be direct or super decisive. And some people do describe them actually as dominant. They tend to prefer to lead than follow. So you see them more in the leadership or the management type positions. They also tend to be direct or focus mostly on results. So big results oriented type personality. They're firm, they're strong-willed, they're forceful. Now, some of that sounds aggressive. So the people that are high Ds are like, yes. The people that are not high Ds are thinking, that sounds intimidating. But when we're talking about this, every single time you should really think, okay, if you saw that trait, how can we try and work, or how can I try and work with this person? Again, this is not about you individually judging the type of personality, but how would you work best to come to the best agreement, or how would you work with that personality profile? All right, the next one is the I, which is influence. So the people with the I style, which makes me laugh because these are some that, well, actually the D and I think, are the two easiest to notice, because the I tends to be the people that are outgoing. They're super enthusiastic, optimistic, high-spirited. They are lively. They're social, popular. They emphasize shaping the environment by influence or persuading others. Again, these are kind of the life of the party type people. So if you saw these types of traits, again, the question should always be, how would we work with that person to achieve the best result possible? The next one is the S, which is steadiness. This is the type of person that's very steady, they're stable, very predictable, even-tempered, tend to be friendly, sympathetic with others. They also tend to be very generous with their loved ones. The S also is somebody that typically listens well. So if you saw these type of traits, again, the question we should always be asking ourselves is, how would you try and work the best with that person or that personality? All right, the final one, the C. So the C profile, that tends to be the compliant person. It also is very complex. That is probably the most complex personality profile of all of them. They also tend to be passive in nature. Sometimes they can be seen as aloof, or this approach can kind of give the impression of being cold or disinterested. Tend to be very analytical, usually reserved. They're precise, they're private, systematic. So again, if you see that personality profile, how would you validate this person, and how would you try and work the best with that personality? And that personality profile, which I see, I'm in real estate, and so we come across a lot of people. I see that personality profile a lot with people that tend to be CPAs or engineers, and they're just very compliant and systematic, and sometimes that can offend us, especially a high D or I. You're like, what's wrong with you? But again, there's nothing wrong with that personality profile. We are just trying to understand it at a deeper level so we can adapt, if that makes sense. We talked about this before. So the DISC profile, that can be used for your personal and business life. In fact, I think if you really grasp this and run with it, you're going to find that, this interweaves in personal and business all the time and every day. Now, as far as my profile, I did score 100% on the D category. That's right, Kevin. I did ace it 100%. But here's what I found.
Well done, buddy. Well done.
Yeah, I'm an overachiever, man. I put the plaque on the wall and everything. If you've been around a high D, though, and I'm telling you this because that is my personality, sometimes it feels like a locomotive is headed right for you. So high Ds can be tough, but what we've mentioned before and what the focus should be is that there's no right or wrong profile. It just is your profile. So actually, now that I've explained my profile to people, hopefully everybody too can use that to help adapt to me, because I think, again, this is a two-way street. We each understand each other better and what we need to say and do. So I like to, whenever I'm talking about sales or doing anything, I like to use the example of a chameleon. And what do chameleons do? They basically are going to adapt to their environment. And so when we're using this profile, think of being a chameleon. And the reality is we're just trying to understand their personality profile, and then we are adapting to that profile. And that truly is where the magic is. So let's talk too a little bit about some examples of how this can be done personally. So if you have kids or a spouse or any relationship, with another person, relatives, friends, that you would want a deeper relation and more meaningful relationship with. Understanding the people at this deep level is just going to help your relationship with them and vice versa. So I really think if you harness this, it's just going to make those relationships on a personal level just more rich and fulfilling for both of you. The other thing that and I'm saying we, and including myself, we don't do this enough. And have you ever noticed people love being validated, especially with their personality or who they are? In fact, as a teenager, sometimes that's what you see, because I've got a teenager, is why I'm saying that, but you see that they want to be their own person and be validated. So the disc is going to help you validate the people. And if you've noticed in personal relationships too, a lot of the, quote, conflicts that we have often have less to do with a real conflict and more to do with a misunderstanding. And the misunderstanding usually is a two-way street, but sometimes it's just we don't understand that person and we don't validate that person. So again, for the personal side, that's a great way to use this profile. Now, on the business side, if you work with clients, you have prospects, or you do sales or real estate, which I know a lot of people in the group do, this is a great way to understand the other personality profile of the person you're working with. And I promise you, you're definitely going to close more deals and have more satisfied clients with this approach of listening and then adapting your personality to their profile. And of course, even on the business side, talking about the validation, when you're with a client, validating their personality is a great way to build that deeper relationship. So for just a couple quick examples, if you were a high D, they don't like their time wasted. So you could say, I'm sure you don't want your time wasted, blah, 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 whatever you want to fill in there. The high I, you could validate them by saying things like, I bet you love being around people. Now, these are all statements that are geared towards that personality, but that helps validate them and make them feel like you understand them, which builds that deeper relationship. So, and I'm sure, too, we've all had the inverse of this happen, right, where we're not validated. And a lot of times you hear like, well, I felt like they didn't understand me. They didn't hear what I was saying. They can't relate to me. Those are things that are saying you're not validating who I am as a person. And what that ends up doing is leading towards frustration. So basically if we don't listen enough and we don't validate the person, then that person, it's easier for them to get frustrated. So again, this is a way to understand yourself and others. And I think it's easy if you just focus on it. And the big critical piece is listen a little more and maybe talk a little bit less. All right, so that is the overview of the DISC profile. Now, here is the fun part, and I want everybody, even if you've done the DISC, if you haven't done the DISC in the last probably 3 to 6 months, then I would recommend going to, and again, the website is www.tonyrobbins.com and then /DISC, DISC /. Here is the action plan for everybody. Is after this call, in fact, if you have an extra 15 or 20 minutes at the end of this call, just jump right into that profile. It takes 15, 20 minutes. Take the test. Anybody in your life that can take the test, have them take it as well, even if it's your kids, your spouse, business partners. I think it's going to give you a lot of insight and just help you work better with them. And then one last thing that we want to talk about is tomorrow we're going to go into people bringing their DISC. So the goal is to get the DISC done today, that profile. And then we're going to talk about scripts and ways to analyze people so that, again, we'll be able to have deeper relationships with everybody involved. So, again, TonyRobbins.com /DISC. So take that test. Anybody in your life, have them take it today as well. And then, Kevin, I really appreciate you letting me speak again today. Obviously, today we're going to kind of spill over into tomorrow a little bit as well. However, if there are questions or comments, want to open that up as well today.
So some of the people on the call, has anybody done this before?
Yeah, hey, Jim here. So I have to just second everything you said as far as the assessments go. I think maybe my first 3-4 years into real estate, I wasn't really that into them. And, the further along down the rabbit hole we go, the more and more we view them as important. So like Kevin and they kind of hit on it a little bit earlier as far as partnerships go. One of the mistakes that I made when I first started hiring team members and, looking for partners and things like that was like attracts like. And a huge mistake is like if I hired myself to be my personal assistant, right? I would be the world's worst personal assistant. That's just not who I am. I'm not detail oriented enough to do it. So if you guys are at a stage where you're getting ready to hire that first team member or potentially even assess, whether you should partner with somebody, the personality assessments are just a invaluable tool to help you make that call. I mean, partnerships really only work when there's a synergy that happens where this skill sets mesh and create 1 + 1 = 3. If you're partnering with yourself, then 1 + 1 can only equal 2, right? You're the same person. So I love it, guys. Great call. Nice job, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
So is everybody familiar with this profile? And is everybody willing to commit to taking that today for tomorrow's call? If so, either answer out loud or be silent.
Kevin, I am going to do it.
Yes or yes. Awesome. Well, I'm going to do it. I think this is fun. Last time I took it, I was in a different role, so I'm actually kind of curious to see how it actually changes over time, too. So
I'm pretty excited to take this, and I will post the link with the call on the Facebook page this morning.
excellent. Thank you, Sarah.